So I'm back. Yes, I just recorded a video that's over an hour long. I've got more. See, y'all, I keep trying to tell y'all. You don't understand. I was born a talker. And a lot of times as I'm speaking, things just pop in my head and I just speak on it. And, you know, I feel like it's all important. And sometimes some of it may not. Some of it may be too much. Some of it maybe I shouldn't speak. A lot of it people probably don't like. It's going to get on their nerves and hurt their feelings. And I guess I'm supposed to care. And I do, but whatever. I said I was going to talk about persecution, so I'm gonna read from some things that had me very upset because I'm not here yet, and honestly, I don't ever want to be here. I don't want it to even be a part of what it is I have to endure or even think about. Let's try page 1160. This terrible book. Do you see this thing? This is ridiculous. Like, wait, I can't get it all the way on camera. This is crazy. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Okay, now this is 1060. What are you doing, Jerome? Can you count, Jerome? You need to tell me you can't count. That was 10 something. You looking for 1160, not Ezra. Maccabees. Because we talking about persecution. Mm. First Maccabees chapter 5. Now when the nations round about heard that the altar was built and the sanctuary renewed as before, I wasn't going to start here or go here. I wasn't. See, these things, I try to plan them. That's my blanket, whatever. Now when the nations round about heard that the altar was built and the sanctuary renewed as before, it displeased them very much. So the temple was built and the nations became displeased. Now we know that history repeats itself because there is nothing new under the sun. And the Lord, I believe, I've been reading Maccabees. He's giving us clues as to what shall be will be. So the temple was built and the nations were displeased. Wherefore they thought to destroy the generation of Jacob that was among them. And thereupon, and it says Jacob because this is the Sapphire. Thereupon they began to slay and destroy the people. Then Yahudah fought against the children of Esau in Edom at Arabatai because they besieged Gael, and he gave them a great overthrow and abated their courage and took their spoils. So the temple's going to be rebuilt because it's telling you right here they're going to build the temple, people going to get mad and start trying to come against the Jews, and they're going to lose. That's how things. So I think we need to start looking for this temple. Oh, good God Almighty! They build that temple, honey. If the Jews build that temple anytime soon, people are going to be upset. I'm going to rejoice. I'm going to get my prayer shawl. I'm going to put on some of my Hebrew music. And I'm going to dance like David danced. Because I know my redemption will be drawing nigh. Unfortunately, they're going to think that the Messiah is coming. Then let me just go ahead on and skip. Because this is very like history. In chapter 6, about that time, King Antiochus, traveling through the high countries, heard say that Elmais, in the country of Persia, was a city greatly renowned for riches, silver and gold, and that there was in it a very rich temple, wherein were coverings of gold, and breastplates and shields which Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian king, who reigned first among the Yavanim, had left there. So this must be the Greeks. Wherefore he came and sought to take the city and to spoil it, but he was not able because of the city having had warning thereof. So they already knew what he was about to do before he did it. He says, and rose up against him in battle. So he fled and departed thence with great heaviness and returned to Babel. Now, why was Antiochus Epiphanes? I believe this was Antiochus Epiphanes, but this could have been his father, because this talks about Philip, the Macedonian king. Talks about Alexander, so-called the Great. That was trying to work in my mind right now. So sometimes I have to pray in silence, Lord Jesus. Oh, God have mercy. See, he's angry, but Jesus. Yolanda Adams is on the radio singing Riding Through the Storm. Oh, Lord. Okay. So, moreover, there came one who brought him tidings into Persia that the armies which went against the land of Yahudah were put to flight. So, as I said, a lot of this is historical. So we see Antiochus was trying to steal, and he went back to Babel. So does this mean that the last, because they believe Antiochus Epiphanes was a type and picture of the Antichrist, so is the Antichrist really going to rise up in Iraq? It says this person went to Persia to steal, but failed and ran back to Babel. So is the Antichrist going to go and try to attack Iran and end up going back to Iraq? Is modern day Babylon America? Yes. So are the Americans going to try to attack Iran and lose? I'm asking questions because I don't know. Now when the king heard these words, he was astonished and sore moved. Going down, wherefore he called for all of his friends and said unto them, the sleep is gone from my eyes, and my heart fails for very care. And I thought with myself, into what tribulation am I come, and how great a flood of misery is it, wherein now I am. I was bountiful and beloved in my power, but now I remember the evils that I did in Jerusalem, and that I took all the vessels of gold and silver that were therein, and sent to destroy the inhabitants of Yahudah without cause. So this is him remembering. I perceive therefore that for this cause these troublers are come upon me, and behold, I perish through great grief in a strange land. Then called he for Philip, one of his friends, who he made ruler over all his realm, and gave him the crown, and his robe, and his signet, and to the end he should bring up his son, Antiochus, and nourish him up for the kingdom. So King Antiochus died there in the 149th year. So this is Antiochus Epiphanes' father, who apparently went into Jerusalem, or I'm thinking, was this Antiochus Epiphanes? Because it just says Antiochus. So apparently there's more than one. But this one that's dying went in and took all the vessels of gold, went into the temple and just started killing and persecuting the Jews for no reason. See, because I was going to speak about persecution. I wasn't going in this this far back. Mm. About this time, they that were in the tower shut up Israel round about the sanctuary and sought always their hurt and the strengthening of the heathen. Wherefore Yahudah, proposing to destroy them, called all the people together to besiege them. You have to speak victory during the test. No matter how you feel, speak the word and you will be healed. Speak over yourself. Encourage yourself in the Lord. That's on the radio. Whoa. So it seems as though this is giving us a clue as to how things are going to play out in the end times. But those of you know about the Maccabean revolt and how these people went through horrible things. What is this? Chapter 11. The king of Egypt gathered together a great host, like the sands that lie upon the seashore, and many ships, and went about through deceit to get Alexander's kingdom, and join it to his own. Whereupon he took his journey into Spain in peaceable manner, so as they of the cities opened unto him and met him. For King Alexander had commanded them so to do, because he was his brother-in-law. Now as Ptolemy entered into the cities, he set in every one of them a garrison of soldiers to keep it. This is Cleopatra's ancestor, who, Ptolemy was running Mitzrayim, or Egypt. Alexander was more like an emperor, but he reigned as king under him. Y'all pray for me, because all of a sudden I'm feeling sick to my stomach. The devil is such a liar, and I rebuke him in the name of Jesus. I'm not, no. I feel like I need to vomit, and I don't ever throw up. Those of you know about my medical condition, they say there's no cure. I say, why take pills when they get ready to force us to do Obamacare? It's time to reapply for my food stamps when Obamacare is about to be enacted, and they want people to take these maccabees chips, and some are saying that that's going to be required in order for us to get food stamps, and I'm sure that will happen at some point. I don't know when, and what happens if you refuse to take the Obamacare, and if you do take it, do you automatically have to be chipped, or there's a lot on my mind. Funding for these type of things are getting ready to be gone, I believe, especially since they're having another debt ceiling to want to raise. They're thinking they're going to be talking about that in October the 15th, or whatever the case may be, and or is it September the 15th? I think it's October the 15th, which is right around the time of the anniversary of the Masons first becoming known as Masons, because before then they were the Knights Templars, and something happened on a Friday, which so happened to be October the 13th, and all of these things. And so it's just why be a part of the system? Might as well learn to trust God now, because we're getting ready to go through hell. It's a lot on my shoulders, and people in my family really honestly seem to be just apathetic. Though none of them nobody got no power. Oh my goodness. My mother tells me that the Lord says she can have anything she wants, but she gotta write it down. I'm like, well, why don't you write down that He heals my body? Since He's telling you can have whatever you want as long as you write it down, mother. I'm thinking write down that. But anyway, father's been preaching for decades, and I mean, nobody has any power except these witches and sorcerers that are running around the house of God, and you can't even tell which one is which and what's what. Oh, Jesus. So you know about the Maccabean revolt and everything that they went through. And I just wanted to share some of the horrors that they truly went through, because this is going to help us to see what's going to be happening. Now, as concerning Yehuda Maccabee and his brethren, and the purification of the great temple and the dedication of the altar, and the wars against Antiochus Epiphanes, and Eupator his son, and the manifest signs that came from heaven unto those that behaved themselves manfully to their honor for Judaism, so that being but a few, they overcame the whole country, and chased barbarous multitudes, and recovered again the temple renowned all the world over, and freed the city, and upheld the Torah, which were going down, Yahuwah being gracious unto them with all favor. All these things I say, being declared by Jason of Cyrene in 5 Sepharim. He will essay to abridge in one volume. So that means it's like 5 different books that he was trying to, I guess, break down into one book or just put them all into one, collection of books. I go through a box of tissues. I'm telling you, I'm not gonna stop my work for the Lord. Devil is a lie. I'm hoping people aren't too grossed out by somebody blowing their nose at this as if it's not natural. But people are gonna say whatever they want to say. Now, this person was a traitor who they're going to mention. This Shimon, now, of whom we spoke of before, having been a betrayer of the money and of his country, slandered Onyahu. Onyahu was the high priest. They did this man terrible. Y'all got to get a copy of the second book of Maccabees. They did this man terrible. And the person who betrayed him was Shimon. And when I saw that, I said, isn't Shimon Peres the president of Israel? They sure gave him the right name. And I always thought that Benjamin Netanyahu was the president, even though they said prime minister. I thought, well, they have prime ministers in other countries and we have presidents. But then I only found out that these prime ministers are like vice presidents, or they're not even quite equal to our presidents. I'm like, what is going on? I thought Simone Perez had died in the 90s or the 80s or whatever. On Yahoo, seeing the danger of this contention, and that Apollonius, as being the governor of Syria and Phoenicia, did rage and increase Simon's malice. This man was horrible. This man was horrible. I'm skipping a lot. Mm. So and Yahoo went and hid himself in the temple, and eventually they convinced him to come out of the temple and killed him for no reason. And even the Greek people, the heathens, were very upset. What was interesting that I read in this book was that they had come to the temple, and what we know of as the outer court, they began using that as practice, a place where they could exercise and train to throw discus, because they were and began training the young Jews boys who were supposed to be trained up to be priests. Instead of being allowing themselves to be trained to become priests, they began to train themselves in different sports to prepare for the Olympics, which is in honor of the Greek gods of Mount Olympus. And then inside of the actual temple, they were having sex with prostitutes. They brought prostitutes into the temple and had their way with them. I said to myself, "Oh my God!" No, I think this was after Antiochus Epiphanes had did what he did to the temple. I kind of got lost. I haven't read all 4 books of Maccabees. I was up on the Day of Atonement, at the beginning of it, reading this, and I turned the computer off early. I don't even know what time it was. I just know when I looked up, it was like 2 in the morning, and I was still reading. And I'm like, I think I had been 2 to 1, 12, 11, 10. I think I had been up for like 5 hours reading just the book of Maccabees, and there's like 4 books and so much information. And the story is like, wow. I think that the guy who did Passion of Christ is also trying. Mel Gibson is wants to do something about the Maccabees, and people say he's trying to kiss up because Jews really got upset with him. The one guy who's really big in the industry in Hollywood or whatever, who's the brother of Rahm Emanuel. I think their father used to be like a Israeli terrorist, killed people and stuff, and they're very mean. Those Emanuel children are very mean, and they even did a show about him on FX where I forget the name of the show. Entourage, I think, had a character on him that was based on a character that was based on the brother of Rahm Emanuel, who used to be a ballet dancer with Joffrey Ballet, and then worked with he was chief of staff after with Obama as well. He's really mean. He knelt somebody a dead fish. I think that Hillary Clinton or somebody. I don't know. He's really mean. And Show Me the Money, that character I think is also based on him. But anyway, they caused a big stir and all the Jews and everything got all upset. So they think he's just trying to kiss up to the Jews. I don't know, but whatever. Terrible things went on, and I guess the story of Maccabees needs to be told because I think we get ready to relive some of this stuff. So as I said, they were having sex with prostitutes in the temple and training for the Olympics in the outer courts. And began dressing like the Greeks and All the young people wanted to be more like the heathens, and they allowed them into the temple to be and allowed them to be more heathenists and help bring them up in the ways of the world, which is exactly what's going on with these sorcerers, these witches, these charlatans, these wolves who God never called, who are operating and being allowed to operate in the church under the disguise of, well, let's just all be loving. This is not Woodstock. Free love for everybody. Oh Jesus, I would just want to, if I could just have a horse and a sword and just begin to behead them. But see, we don't do that in our religion. See, but that's what they're going to do to us. As I said, I have some struggles with this whole persecution thing. Maybe I didn't say it, I'm saying it now. This whole having to endure and go through the tribulation. The Lord is just beginning to work on me with that. And it's like, look, I think this is an impossible task because I'm never going to want to endure those things. And I can't imagine having to go through them. Now let's and the reason why is found in Second Maccabees chapter 7. I'm nowhere near able to even pretend like I would even imagine Brother Gary made a video like, where are we going to betray Christ? I'm afraid that I might. I pray to God I don't. But I'm not ready for the type of physical persecution that is probably coming our way. And people may think that they are. But I'm going to read this and I'm going to close. And you ask yourself, are you really ready? And if you say yeah, you probably lying. It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the Torah to taste swine's flesh. All they wanted them to do was just to have a little piece of a pork chop, a little bacon. Everybody loves bacon, right? Just a little bit of ham. Now, I don't think it was raw pork, bloody and nasty. I would think not. But they probably were just that gross. If they were eating actual raw pork, but I don't think so. And compelled by the king against the Torah to taste swine's flesh, and were tormented with scourges and whips. But one of them that spoke first said thus, what would you ask or learn of us? We are ready to die rather than to transgress the Torah of our fathers. Then the king, being in a rage, commanded pans and cauldrons to be made hot, which forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spoke first, and to cut off the utmost parts of his body, the rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. Now when he was thus maimed in all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire and to be fried in the pan. They cut this boy's tongue, toes, and fingers off one by one and fried him. You said you ready for persecution. You ready? Oh. Now I'm going to skip down because there were 7 brothers. So when the first was dead after this number, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock. I guess that's what we call a laughing stock. And when they had pulled off the skin of his head with the hair, they asked him, will you eat before you go punished, before you be punished throughout every member of your body? They pulled his scalp off. Pulled it off. Mm-mm-mm. Jesus the Christ. Lord Jesus the Christ. I just picture them just grabbing my neck and just, oh my God. Whoo! Jesus, 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 Jesus. Pulled off the skin of his head with the hair. They asked him, "Will you eat before you be punished throughout every member of your body?" Now they pulled you. All they wanted him to do was eat some pork. They ripped his scalp off. Said, "Now you gonna eat this pork?" But he answered in his own language and said, "No." Wherefore he also received the next torment in order as the former did, meaning they cut off all his tongue and his fingers and toes. And when he was at the last gasp, he said, "You, like a fury, take us out of this present life, but the King of the world shall raise us up, who have died for his Torah unto everlasting life." After him was a third made a mocking stock, and when he was required, he put out his tongue, and that right soon, holding forth his hands manfully. He said, "Clap like a man, manfully." And they go down the list of these seven brothers. One they put on something called a wheel, and and bent his basically. They used the word scorpion style. They laid him on his pelvis on a wheel and began to pull his legs up behind him until his spine snapped. See, and said courageously, "These I had from heaven, and for this Torah I despised them, and from him I hope to receive them again." Talking about insomuch that the king and they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage, for that he nothing regarded the pains. Now when this man was dead also, they respected him, but they so killed him. They tormented and mangled the fourth in like manner. So when he was ready to die, he said thus, "It is good being put to death by men to look for hope from Elohim, to be raised up again by him. As for you, you shall have no resurrection to life." Afterward, they brought the fifth. They just went down the line and just killed them one by one, and then the mother. Because mind you, it's seven brothers. And they started with the oldest, hoping that the young ones would be scared. They had to each watch their brothers die, be tortured, and killed. And after they killed all the children, then the mother. The mother could have stopped, could have just said, "Look, I'll eat pork," and ran out. The youngest, one of any of the younger brothers could have said, "Look, I'll just go ahead and eat the pork." Not one of them gave in, and even the mother, after watching seven of her sons be murdered, went on with the torture. These people were fried and boiled in cauldrons of oil, had their fingers and toes and tongues removed, had the skin of his head peeled back. And another story, I don't know if it's about these same brothers, but they peeled his skin back and then released some sort of panthers. The book of Maccabees says panther-like creatures. So this might have been some kind of hybrid animals. You know how they do with the hybrids. You know what they're doing with the hybrids. Panther-like creatures come and gnaw at their faces and chins. He was still alive. The level of torture mentioned in the book of Maccabees, I just was like screaming. Screaming. I couldn't believe it. And I'm not ready for that. But persecution is coming. When I see all these mega preachers, and like I said, they're making money and doing well, they're going to turn against God. And I have to be tortured. It's very difficult to deal with that, and that's another reason why so many people are so upset when they see the success of these people who are not really men and women of God, because it's like, especially when you're awake and you know that we're going through the tribulation period, and you have to witness the foolishness that's going on in the church. It's just sickening.